All right, Mr. Chair, you are now live.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. We'll call to order the regularly scheduled virtual meeting of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board on Wednesday, the 2nd of June, 2021. It is 7:03 p.m. Board members present tonight are Lawrence Harris, Vice Chairman, Dick Peterson, Kia Baskerville, and Elizabeth Conger. My name is Jimmy Praley. Also present tonight, we have City Attorney Michael Lyles and Deputy City Clerk Cynthia Gaines. First order of business is the board had an opportunity to review the minutes of May 5th, 2021. And are there any additions, corrections, or modifications?
I move they be accepted, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right. Motion has been made and seconded for approval of the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, then the minutes will stand approved. Before we begin our regular business, I'd like to state for the record that since this is a virtual meeting, anyone wishing to submit public testimony may do so by way of written testimony, which will be submitted as part of the official record. Anybody wishing to submit written testimony may do so by going to www.annapolis.gov/ABC. And with that, we will turn to our violations, and I will declare the disciplinary hearing open. The first violation concerns Red Wine Bar, located at 189B Main Street, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. In accordance with the Alcoholic Beverages article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, the Annapolis Charter and Code, and the rules and regulations of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board of the City of Annapolis, this disciplinary hearing is in connection with infraction citation number 21-0826, which alleges the sale of alcoholic beverages to individuals under the age of 21. And who do we have here tonight representing Red Wine?
I'm Brian Bolter. I'm the licensed individual, the owner of Red Wine Bar, and then Haley Lasciavo, who's the bartender at the time of the infraction. Okay,
great. Thank you, Mr. Bolter. Everybody who's planning on testifying tonight, if you could please raise your right hand while I administer the oath. All right. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalties that the testimony you are about to give is true and correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Bolter, if you could just place your address on the record for the clerk, please.
189B as in boy, Main Street, Annapolis, 21401.
Okay, and Ms. Lasciavo, if you could do the same, that would be great.
189B Main Street, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bolter, as you're the licensee, I'm going to ask you these questions. Have you had the opportunity to review the police report and the citation issued in this case?
Yes.
And having read those documents, do you admit or deny the charges?
We admit it.
Okay. And will you then consent and agree that the police report will serve as the city's evidence in this particular case?
Yes.
Okay. With that, we will admit the police report and corresponding citation as evidence. And then, Mr. Bolter, I will leave you. It's your opportunity to make any statements or comments regarding this particular infraction. And you could also have the bartender, Ms. Lasciavo, do the same if you wish.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. We've been in business. It'll be 10 years, July 21st. This is the second time this has happened to us. It happened to us the first time. It was a sting, and a busser that we had promoted to server failed that test the first year in business, and now we are in our 10th year of business. And Haley, unfortunately, did not pass this sting as well. We are, and I'm sure the board knows, and the Annapolis and the greater region knows that we are not a place where underage drinkers come. We have never, to my knowledge, ever had a complaint against Red Wine Bar for underage drinking. It's not that style of restaurant. It doesn't attract that crowd. It's unfortunately, with the timing in the middle of COVID and with a million things going on, while it is not an excuse, it's the matter of the fact that the timing and the situation presented itself, and we unfortunately did not pass the sting, and we apologize for it.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions of Mr. Bolter or of Haley, who's also here, who's the bartender?
No.
No.
Question is done.
Larry has his hand up.
Larry does? Larry,
No,
no? Okay.
I don't have any questions. I apologize. I'm having issue with my video, but I can hear what's going on.
Okay, not a problem. Mr. Bolter, having no questions, do you have any other final comments that you would like to make to the board?
No, we're very appreciative to be a reputable licensed business in downtown Annapolis. We feel like we run a tight ship. We are all tip certified, and Haley is tip certified as well. And every single person in our establishment who serves alcohol is tip certified, and we make sure that they're current. I am tip certified. Our general manager is tip certified, and we take underage drinking extraordinarily seriously. And again, we apologize for not passing this test, but we do believe that overall we are very diligent at making sure that we do not indulge in underage drinking, and we do not allow it. And we are, the kids now have really good ID cards, and we do our absolute best. They get them from China, and they look absolutely correct. And so we do our absolute best, and we apologize for not passing this test.
Thank you, guys. Brian, I recently had to deal with this with a friend in DC about the IDs, and yeah, they're pretty good nowadays.
Really good.
We were kids, so thank you. I appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think your track record is spot on. So with that, we'll confer on this case, and we will render our decision before our next regularly scheduled meeting, which I believe is July 7th, 2021. You'll hear from us before then. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, that was our only violation tonight, so I'll declare the disciplinary hearing closed. Next item on our agenda addresses Market SPS LLC, trading as Harvest Wood Grill and Tap, located at 26 Market Street, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. We've received a request to utilize adjacent refrigerated storage space in the building located at 28-30 Market Space to store kegs of beer and further use existing tap lines for service to the bar on the first floor of this particular establishment. And Mr. Hayek, good evening. Nice to see you. Just go right ahead and explain to us what you're looking to do. And if there's anybody who will be offering any testimony, we can deal with that at that time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The licensees are present virtually. I don't know that it's necessary for them to testify, but we'll see. I'm Alan Hyatt, 200 Westgate Circle. I represent Market SPS LLC, which trades as Harvest Wood Grill and Tap at 26 Market Space. The question, the very narrow question before this board is whether you have any interest in participating in this request of off-site storage, because the Maryland code allows for off-site storage by applying for a permit from the comptroller. And in the code, under section 2-113 alcoholic beverage article, there's a provision that in Anne Arundel County, the Board of License Commissioners in Anne Arundel County, outside of the city of Annapolis, that board is to issue a written approval before one applies for a license to store outside of the premises. There is not that type of section in the code pertaining to the city of Annapolis. And I've had experience in the county on numerous occasions. The last one we did, for example, was for live casino. And there's a storage facility off-site, private warehouse, and we make an application to the comptroller, and the Anne Arundel County Board of License Commissioners signs off and says, fine, we don't have any problem pursuant to that 2113 section. We don't have that in the code as it pertains to the city. So I believe all we would have to do is apply to the comptroller, but out of an abundance of caution, we've notified you, this board, and wanted to see if you wanted to make that little bit of storage space part of the licensed premises. I don't really think that's the appropriate thing to do because it's already been addressed in the code as private storage, and there's a procedure for that. So that whole story boils down to, does this board want to weigh in or not? And if it doesn't, fine, we'll just apply to the comptroller. And if it does, we would respectfully ask that you say, we are satisfied for you to proceed with the comptroller. And that's really all we're asking. And I think historically, Reardon's, which operated the facility at this location for many years, used that for storage regardless. I don't think they had a separate license. I think they just used it. So we're trying to do it the correct way.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have to recuse myself from this conversation.
Okay. Noted. Thank you. All right. Do any board members have any questions of Mr. Hyatt or the documents that we've seen, including the drawings? Okay. Mr. Lyles, do you have anything you want to add to this as counsel?
I think your board is within its authority to accept the state code process, as well as you're within your authority to refuse to go along with the process and to design a new process. But I don't have any legal issues with it as long as the board here finds it approvable. However, we probably want to consider adopting some kind of process in your policies and regulations, so for future purposes.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, I don't see any reason that we can't approve this request tonight. Unless any of the board members have any other questions of Mr. Hyatt or of any of the licensees, I'd entertain a motion for this request by Market SPS LLC, trading as Harvest Wood Grill and Tap, to utilize this refrigerated storage space in the adjacent building located at 2830 Market Space to store kegs of beer and to further use existing tap lines for service to this particular bar.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before I make that motion, I think we should request that they do apply to the controller's office for that certificate. And
Sure. I don't think they would be able to utilize it unless the comptroller's office.
okay, so I'll make that part of my motion. Upon approval or upon getting the certificate or whatever it is from the controller's office, I move that we let this go forward.
Okay, so your motion is contingent on the issuance of the appropriate documentation from the comptroller's office.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Motion is second, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Harris. The motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Your request is granted. And I think we probably will in the future come up with some new rules and regulations and guidelines to address this type of situation. So thank you, Mr. Hyatt, for bringing it to
All
our.
right, thank you.
All right. The next order of business is a show cause hearing for Golden Empire LLC, trading as Manja, located at 81 Main Street, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. This is in connection with the licensee's failure to comply with the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board rules and regulations, specifically section 2.10A, B, and C, which pertains to the term of the license. And I see Mr. Hyatt again here. Mr. Hyatt, the reason that we, and I'm sure you're aware of this, seeing as you've received our correspondence, the reason that we brought your clients before the board tonight is the clerk's office didn't receive all of the renewal materials by the deadline. And it's my understanding that currently there's a hold from the fire department and a stop work order from planning and zoning. So we wanted to bring the licensee before the board tonight to inquire further on the status and to consider any reasons why you do not think we should impose the fines that are further outlined in our rules and regulations. So with that, I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you again. We have been before you on numerous occasions, as you may recall. This is I think the toughest client I have in terms of the COVID experience when it comes to the restaurant business. If you recall, you extended the time when the establishment could reopen until October 1st. We have also obtained approval from the Department of Planning and Zoning to extend the reopening date, because what happened was the establishment closed at the commencement of COVID, began to do work, but the work was done without proper permitting. It was a long delay in obtaining an architect and drawings, and now things are moving forward again. The latest issue we have is this grease interceptor. I think the city's going to let us open with the old grease interceptor, but there'll be a time limit when a new one has to be installed. So while all that was going on, the renewal wasn't done properly, and I don't think there's a good excuse for it. It's just that they didn't submit a certificate of good standing, a trader's license, this crowd management training evidence, and a tip certificate. And it all should have been submitted pre-April 30th, and it has now been submitted post-April 30th, but they're still not open. So on the one hand, they really haven't, there's been no harm in a sense, because you've already given them an extension to reopen on October 1st. So they paid the money, and I believe, and Ms. Gaines, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you now have everything necessary, and there's still the stop work order, and there's still the issue with the fire department, but all that has to be resolved before they reopen. So we know that, we know all that work has to be resolved, but the place hadn't been open for a year, and I would hate to see them further penalized, because it's been draining, let's put it that way. And I'm hopeful they can get reopened by October with all the right permits and the grease interceptor and all those things worked out. But that's where we are, and it's a very tough situation.
Understood. Do any board members have any questions of Mr. Hyatt about the status or what's transpired leading to tonight?
No, you acknowledge that you did miss the deadline, correct?
Correct, because certain things were not delivered to the city clerk's office. That is correct, and there's no real excuse for it. I suspect the client thought, well, we're not open. What's the difference at this point? Well, you still have to renew the license. So, everybody understands that.
Exactly, because I know, as a matter of fact, with this COVID going on, that there were a number of licensees who were jumping through hoops to make the deadline,
Right.
and they all did. So,
I will also say this is that this is a beloved establishment. And I've had a young person who worked there who it sets home personally with me because I had a friend that worked there, and he loved the job, but it didn't save him from himself, and that's all I'll say. So I would like to do whatever we can in order to get this establishment back to where they need to be, and I think it's the right thing to do if we can.
And I thank you for that because, the owner has invested really a lot of money. The owner bought the business and then ultimately bought the real estate. So there's a lot of commitment and has made some mistakes. I will acknowledge that, made some mistakes, and we're trying to guide her and the ownership team through the process. And it's just been difficult. So I appreciate any leniency we can get for this particular issue, with the goal to get properly permitted, open, and get back in business, because the place has been closed for so long. It's been a terrible financial hardship, and a hardship on the people that work there. They've lost their livelihoods.
Well, there's also the public who actually really enjoyed that place. So,
Yep. No, I understand.
and
That.
I never frequented that place, but I've heard a lot. So hopefully we can do something.
I hope.
Okay. All right. If it's okay with everybody, I was hoping that we could discuss this matter further in our executive session this evening and come to a decision of what we want to do.
I definitely agree with that.
Okay.
I agree as well.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hyatt. Well, then we will do that. We'll discuss this matter in an executive session, and you will be hearing from us.
Great.
Okay. Thanks for.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Which
Good
brings
night.
us to our executive session on the agenda. So I make a motion that we close out our live session and move to executive session.
I make a motion.
second.
Second, but I'll be right back.